Well, as you can see, we've gotten our project around to where, pseudo project here, around to where we want to start thinking about closing. Now, this stitch that we left hanging out in the open will now reach down between the leathers, pull it up. As you can see, I pulled the stitch up, and we'll just tuck that in between the leathers. Right here. And then we'll just continue stitching. Making sure that we stitch the beginning lace into the project, into the seam, so that we're secured. Down through this one. I'm not going to turn the project around. You've seen stitches out of the back, I'm sure. Okay. Yep. And as you can see, we're just continuing to stitch normally. Just like we did all the way around the project, except for the corners. So normally I wouldn't have this in a stitching pony. Just make sure that I kind of keep it in position. You see, we're coming back to our stitch just before the one we started in. Now continuing to stack our stitches. The top and under this one. Into the first hole. different about this, to do now, we had already stitched the leaving stitches in the remaining holes. So now we're going to start tying these stitches together with the remaining stitches that we require into them. Normal stitching. Continue to do one under, one over, then one over, one under, however you want to say it. See here, we'll come over. This would be the, we're going into 2. We came out of 2 when we started. Now we're going in and put the other stitch in 2. Over the top. Under this stitch, coming out of hole number 1. Just go right back the hole before number 1. We'll go back 2 always. Except we're going around the corners. Now 3 we haven't gone into. So we'll come back here. 2 stitches here. We go under this one. That one, just like we did in the beginning. See, now our stitch is starting to close up. As you can see, because 3, go down through there, that finishes up the stitch in number 3. Gives us 1 in and 1 out. The only place we don't have 1 out of is 1. This is where we're going to close the stitch. You won't be able to tell. So we're over this one, under this one. Now we'll go into 1, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this very well on a stitching pony. What we want to do is come into 1, come midway between the leathers. Not going to be able to do it. I'm going to have to hold like this. What we want to do is come up between the leathers and right out between the stitches. So getting into there. There it came. So I'll pull that through. This straight. When I pull this up, this one will have a complete stitch all the way around. Correct a few little kills here. And you can't see where we started and where we ended. You just take this and get the good scissors. Just pull it up good and snug and snip it off. And you see it just looks like it continues all the way around. Well, that completes the Mexican round braid stitch. I showed Dixie in my first video. She's my shop assistant, so I thought I'd put her in this video so she gets paid scale. Now, baby. As you can see, our project is complete. It's not good for anything. Maybe Dixie can use it as a chew toy. A couple of things I wanted to mention. One, if you're interested in lacing, this book is an excellent reference. It's available from Springfield Leather, from Tandy Leather, from lots of other places for about $4. And it covers hand stitching, buck stitching, and the one it covers single loop, double loop, triple loop, quadruple loop, Mexican round braid, just like we've talked about. It's a good reference of how to start, how to finish, how to go around corners. And it's for $4, you can't beat it. Just keep it in your shop as a reference. But I hope that helped. If this video was helpful to you and you're wanting to do round braid, it gives you another way of putting a finish on an edge. One thing I would note that is, if I was doing this as a project, I don't know if you can tell, but I would have finished the edges, even though they're going to be covered predominantly by the lace, in the same color as the lace, so that then you don't see little blotches of a different color showing up through, because sometimes in a braid you'll see. Now on the sides you want to see it. On the top edge should be solid, and you should see the weave in the braid, which looks pretty good. And like I said, this was not a project, just a instructional aid. But the book, this, and if you enjoyed the video and think it helped you some with learning, leave me a comment out on YouTube saying thanks a lot, this is good. If you want to complain about how bad the videoing was and that stuff, don't bother. I know how bad it is. I'm not a videographer. I'm going to look for some tutorials on videographic. The only thing that's not in this book, that is in another book that both of them sell, is how to do two-tone lacing. If I do a third one and people look like they're interested, then I'll demonstrate two-tone lacing. That's where you alternate colors in a lace. Looks very good. There's a couple of things you have to make sure of, but we'll talk about that if I do the video. But this is Chief saying thanks.